How's it going, everyone? James Lynch here. This is Early Look, the show where we take a look at an upcoming notable fight. And on today's edition, we're going to be looking at the welterweight fight, June 25th, UFC Fight Night between Magny and Shavkat Rakhmonov. But before we do that, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. That way you won't miss any notifications on this channel. I'm posting content on here every single day, and all that is really helps out the channel, helps the views, helps so many things. So just do those three things. We'll be in business here. And also make sure you leave a comment at the end of the video here. Do you agree or disagree with my assessment? We're going to go through this fight from a stats perspective. We're going to look at everything, break down this fight, and then I'm going to give you my pick and preview throughout this entire video. So hopefully you can tune into all of it and give me your thoughts at the end here. So like I mentioned there, this is going to be taking place as part of the UFC Fight Night card that's headlined by Arman Tsarukyan and Mateusz Gamrot, Magny, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Let's get, by the way, Shavkat, I just watched one of his fights before he got on here. Bruce Buffer said it like Shavkat. I've heard Shavkat. I've heard both. So my apologies if I'm mispronouncing it. It's not by error. It's just I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let's get into the fact that this is just a 3-round fight. And we're going to start first with Magny. And also remember, this is the UFC Apex, so smaller cage here. So we'll see how that goes for both guys here. But let's start with Magny. Get into the stats and everything else here. Magny, as you can see there, 26-8 record, 7 knockouts, 3 submissions, and 16 decisions. This guy does like going the distance, apparently. He's the number 10th ranked welterweight. He's 34 years old. As you can see here, he's going to be 35 in August. He's 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. So Magny is going to have a 2-inch height and 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. So a couple things to keep in mind there. Magny is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. He trains at Elevation Fight Team, one of the best gyms in the world. Justin Gaethje, Curtis Blades, you name it. They got everyone over there. And Magny, just another couple little cool tidbits. He was an Army veteran. He was deployed in Kuwait, and he actually left the Army in 2013. And also, I didn't realize that he actually attended Southern Illinois University, and he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice. So there you go. If the fighting thing, when that's over, maybe he'll go into law enforcement or something. We'll see. So it's interesting. Let's get into his actual career, though, here. If you look on the bottom here, Magny did not have any amateur fights. It's pretty common, though. A lot of these breakdowns, you'll see there's fighters who don't have any amateur fights. He made his MMA debut in August of 2010, and he made his UFC debut in February of 2013. However, as you can see here, he fought on The Ultimate Fighter Season 16. Look at that. He fought Frank Camacho, who's still in the UFC, which is crazy looking back on that cast. So he actually made it to the semifinals of that show, ended up getting knocked out by Mike Ricci, not the hockey player, the former UFC fighter, got knocked out by him in the first round. And Magny has amassed so far a 19-7 UFC record. He's got 6 stoppage wins. That would probably be more likely with the fact that he's got 16 decision wins as well. One interesting thing with that I think people forget, and it's kind of pretty incredible what he was able to do. He started his UFC career 1-2, right? I mean, he was almost close to being cut after losing back-to-back fights, and then he went on a 7-fight win streak. That was until he ran into Damian Maia. But you got to give him credit here. A lot of these were stoppage wins. Hagun Lim, I remember in that fight he was losing early on, and then he came back and got the finish in that one. Lot of impressive performances during that run, and we'll get to some of the closer fights that happened a little bit later here, but still a great run there. And then even after that, after losing to Maia, he racked up a 3-fight win streak, including a finish over Hector Lombard. So very impressive Magny's UFC career earlier on. He's got a lot of notable wins, actually, and that would tend to happen when you've been in the UFC since 2013. He's got wins over Calvin Gastelum, Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit, Li Jingliang, Robbie Lawler, the former welterweight champion, Jeff Neal, and most recently, Max Griffin. So a lot of good body of work as far as his resume goes. Some of his losses, you can look at it here. He has lost to, some of the best. I mean, earlier on, obviously, Moraes and Seth Bajinski, not great losses here, but hey, Damian Maia was pretty good at the time, fought for the title. Lorenz Larkin, you've got Rafael dos Anjos as well who he lost to, a former champ, and Santiago Ponzinibbio, and then most recently, Michael Chiesa in a fight where, that was a fight to kind of move guys kind of into that contender spot, and Chiesa just, he dominated the fight. He looked great. So that was a bit of a step back there for Magny, but since then he's rebounded with back-to-back wins. Magny's had a few layoffs in his career. If you look at some of the gaps, for example, the layoff from Ponzinibbio to fighting Li Jingliang, there was a 476-day layoff. That was really long. Now, part of that was a USADA thing. We'll get into that in a second. But, outside of that layoff, he's had, pretty much fought 2-3 times a year. So actually, I sort of walk back on that last statement. He really hasn't had a lot of layoffs. He's been fighting, consistently since 2013. A lot of activity activity, just that one blip between Ponzinibbio and Li Jingliang, and that was because he got flagged by USADA for a banned substance. I actually forgot about that. He was supposed to fight Vicente Luque. That was, you can see here, back in May of 2019, he was supposed to fight Vicente Luque, and he was flagged by USADA. I tried to read up on it a little bit. I think it was one of those situations where, you know, he took a supplement, didn't know something was in there. I mean, Neil, you look at him, he's not looking like a guy who's, you know, abusing steroids or trying to sneak anything by, but yeah, he was out of there for a while. So 476 days, that's a good chunk of his career that he missed for about, 2 years, almost 2 years around there. One thing with Magny, I'll give him credit for as well. He does not have a lot of injuries. You look here, it's pretty much been consistent, and that would lead to the fact that he's, you know, been fighting a lot, right? If you're injured, you're probably not going to fight that much. So pretty active fighter there as well. Okay, so I mentioned the 16 decisions. He's had a lot of close fights. We're going to go through them. In fact, I've done a lot of these breakdowns. This is probably the most out of any fighter I've ever done that has had the most close fights where they could have gone either way here. So let's go through the list here quickly, and then we'll get to his opponent. So when he fought Seth Bajinski, which was in a losing effort, I went back and looked at that fight. 5 media members scored the fight for Bajinski, 1 scored it a draw, and 6 scored it for Magny. So that could have gone in Magny's favor. When he fought Alex Garcia, could have gone the other way there. He defeated him by decision back in August of 2014 at UFC Fight Night 49. 5 media members scoring the fight for Magny, 5 scoring it for Alex Garcia. So again, that could have gone the other way. How about Calvin Gastelum? That win. That was a fight in November of 2015 at UFC Fight Night 78. 4 media members scoring the fight for Magny, 10 media members scoring the fight a draw, and 1 media member scoring the fight for Gastelum. So in all likelihood, that should have been a draw in that fight. Johnny Hendricks, I kind of forgot about that fight too. That was UFC 207, December 2016. 20 media members scoring the fight for Magny, but I was surprised to see that 3 media members scored it for Hendricks. So again, Magny clearly won in the eyes of the media, but I still thought it was interesting that 3 people scored it for Hendricks. And then the Rocco Martin fight, which was just back in 2020, that was a close fight. I remember watching that one, UFC Fight Night, UFC 250. That was a Nunes and Spencer card. 5 media members scoring the fight for Magny, 10 media members scoring the fight for Anthony Rocco Martin. So again, he loses that fight. Maybe he's not getting the Robbie Lawler fight next. We'll see. And then his last fight was a split decision win over Max Griffin. Again, that was back in March, UFC Fight Night, Ohio. 15 media members scoring the fight for Magny, 3 scoring it for Griffin. Again, only bringing that up because some media did feel like Max Griffin did enough. So there you go. Neil Magny. Got to give him credit, though. You know, he's fought really good opposition in his career. He's been in the UFC for a long time. He's got to get credit where it's due. I know he doesn't get a lot of shine. He's not the most exciting or most flashy fighter out there, but I've always liked Neil, and I always give respect to guys that, you know, take tough fights, including this one here, and also, fights like, being consistent with fights as well. He's not turning down opponents a lot. So credit to Neil Magny, and like I said, a lot of experience going into this fight. Okay, let's take a look at his opponent, Shavkat Rakhmonov. The Nomad, coming to us from Kazakhstan, or Uzbekistan, I should say, fighting out of Kazakhstan, born in Uzbekistan. There you go. He is, as you can see, undefeated. 8-0. Not 8-0. He's 15-0. He's got 8 wins by knockout. That's what I meant to say. It's going to happen. I'm going to make mistakes on here. 7 wins by submission, 0 decisions. Very impressive. 15 fights, 0 fights gone the distance. But that could work against him too. How's the cardio in the 3rd round? We'll talk about that a little bit later. He's currently the number 15 ranked welterweight. He's 27 years old. He's going to be 28 in October. He's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. So there's a bit of an age gap there, about 7 years between Magny and Rakhmonov, especially with Rakhmonov, I should say, because obviously, Magny's going to be 35, and he'll be 28 later this year as well. So there we go. Rakhmonov is a master of sport in combat sambo, which is a pretty prestigious thing. He's also a master of sport in MMA. He trains at 2 camps, Kazakhstan Top Team and Sanford MMA. Actually, if you go on his Instagram now, you can see that he has been training a lot at Sanford, a lot of good bodies over there. Actually, I'll just show you real quick. So we got a second here. So I'm training with Brendan Allen. So that's got to help. Where are we here? Whoops. Why is that happening? There we go. Let's get in here. Yeah, I saw him with the hat on, the little raccoon hat or whatever that is. There you go. So there he is training there. Obviously, you're at Sanford. That's one of the best camps out there. But again, Neil Magny's at Elevation Fight Team, so they're both coming from really good camps. Okay, you can see there. So I mentioned the training camp, and then also Shavkat is a former M1 welterweight champion. M1, a great promotion overseas. A lot of good fighters coming out of there, so that's a prestigious thing as well. He did have an amateur debut. He fought in... He made his amateur debut in September of 2014. So get this. By the time Shavkat had his first amateur fight, Neil Magny already had 7 fights in the UFC. That's crazy, right? Like, just to show you how much longer Neil's been competing. Now, of course, he's been competing in other disciplines, Sambo, all that stuff. So, we're not looking past that, but still, Magny, already had a 7-fight head start just when he was making his amateur debut, not even pro. Although he did make his pro debut in October of that year. So, a month later, he's making his pro debut, but still, the start of his career was basically at a time when Neil Magny was already 7 fights into his UFC career. Just thought I'd throw that out. He didn't make his UFC debut until October of 2020. So, relatively new to the UFC anyways, not new to MMA. He's 3-0 in the promotion. As you can see, he's got 2 wins by submission, 1 by knockout. His notable wins include Alex Oliveira and Michel Prazeres. Carlton Harris, I wouldn't really call that a notable win. He's sort of a, guy still finding his footing in the UFC, but still to finish him in the first round, very impressive. Not going to look past that. One other win I wanted to point out, not in the UFC, he defeated Jung Young Park, who we saw pick up a win a few weeks ago over Eric Anders at the time of recording this. So that's a good win too. And obviously he doesn't have any notable losses because he's never lost before. As far as layoffs go, he's had a couple in his career. He actually hasn't fought a ton. I just mentioned the 3 UFC fights. I mean, there's a variety of reasons for that. We'll get into it in a second. But he, going from his M1 challenge, the last fight in that promotion, to the UFC, there's about a 484-day layoff in between there. Now, granted, COVID's happening right during that time, right? So it's tough to get fights booked. So, like, for example, he's supposed to fight Bartosz Fambinski. That event is canceled due to the coronavirus. He was supposed to fight Ramazan Ameev, who we're going to see next week at UFC 275. He had to withdraw from that fight. Didn't say why. I don't know if it was injury related or visa related. I couldn't find that information out. That was supposed to happen in July of 2020. And then he was supposed to fight Zaleski in October of 2020, and Zaleski had to withdraw. He still ended up fighting on that card, just fighting Alex Oliveira instead as a replacement there. So you can see there, that's the only real gap that he's had sort of coming into the UFC. And then going from Oliveira to Michel Prazeres, there is a 245-day layoff, and then going from Prazeres to Harris, there was a 224-day layoff. So all of his fights have had big layoffs. This is actually the shortest layoff he's had in between fights. So he fought back in February. Now here he is fighting in June. So that's good. Going to see him fight a little bit more often. He might even get 3 fights in this year. That would be the hope. Of course, when you've never gone the distance in your career, you're not going to have any close fights. So there's nothing there. I went back and had a quick look now. And again, we're recording this a few weeks before. There are no odds in this fight. If I had to guess, I'm going to say Rakhmonov is going to be anywhere from a 2 to 3 to 1 favorite, maybe 4 to 1 favorite. I don't think Magny is going to be a huge underdog here, just because of the fact he's got so much experience in the UFC, and he's also a pretty tough guy to take out. So I think the odds could be close, but again, this is a really popular fighter. I mean, this is another guy that I've seen compared a bit to Khamzat Chimaev, Rakhmonov, anyways. Similar path, undefeated, finishing a lot of his opponents. There's a lot of good comparisons there. Maybe not as notable as Khamzat, for a couple of reasons, not fighting as active or not being as active, and also, just maybe not as popular. I don't know. Chimaev is definitely more popular than his opponent here, but still very dangerous in this fight. This is a really tough fight to break down because I can see it going both ways. And I know some people, I know a lot of people probably watching this are fans of Rakhmonov and, really believe in him and think that he is, future title challenger. I know there's people who already feel that way. I don't know. It's tough to say because this is, a big step up going from Alex Oliveira to, a Neil Magny. And look, Magny's never fought for a title. He has never been a contender. He's had a couple key fights that he's lost, like the Chiesa fight, Ponzinibbio, where he wasn't able to get to that contender spot. So, I mean, you could almost argue, and I mean, no disrespect by saying this to Neil, because I like him a lot. I think you could argue that Neil is probably the gatekeeper in the weight class, even with the rankings. If you look at him being ranked number 10, I think it's fair to say that he probably is the gatekeeper here. Like he's not going to be a contender right now, but he's also not, in the bottom of the 15 there. So that's where things get interesting here. Now you've noticed a common theme here with Neil is that, he's been finished a few times. He was knocked out by Ponzinibbio. He's knocked out by Lorenz Larkin as well. So we know he can be knocked out here. But he's had a lot of submission losses as well too. Rafael dos Anjos, Damian Maia, granted 2 really good guys on the ground. Sergio Moraes submitted him as well. He's also knocked out by Mike Greeke on the Ultimate Fighter here. So, while he does have a ton of fights, like if you're factoring it in here, Neil Magny's been finished through how many UFC fights? Let me do the math here again. He's got 26 UFC fights, and he's only been stopped 1, 2. I mean, let's not count the Ricci fight. That was an exhibition, but he's been finished 1, 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times in 26 fights. That's not a lot of stoppage losses if you look at it overall, right? With considering how many fights he's had. But He's fighting a guy that I think, if you look at his last couple of opponents, definitely have more power, have more, ways to win by stoppage. I mean, Lawler, let's get real here. He's not the old Lawler. If it was the old Lawler, maybe Lawler does knock him out. Jeff Neal, I don't know what's happened to him since he's had his health issues, but he hasn't really been knocking guys out either. So I know Griffin has knockout power, but maybe not to the effect of Rakhmonov. Anyways, I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore here. I'm going Rakhmonov. I'm kind of taking a chance here. I'm going with the fact that, just with this guy's power, he's good everywhere. Like, he's good striking, good ground game. The only question I have here is, does he finish Neil Magny? It's only a 3-round fight. If it was 5 rounds, I'd feel more better about picking him by, stoppage here. I'd feel more confident, I should say, in picking him by stoppage. But Neil's one of those guys that, you've seen him fight, have fights where he's been able to take the fighters into his world. He's got a good height and reach advantage in this fight. He does use that a lot to his advantages. That's why he has so many decision wins, because I find like a lot of times guys are trying to implement their game plan, and then when Neil fights them, it's a whole different ballgame. Look at Max Griffin, prime example. Griffin, did clobber Magny in that first round, nearly finished him, but wasn't able to do it. I mean, Magny's got a very durable, skill set for the most part. Like I mentioned, only 5 stoppage losses. Overall. So with all that said, I'm going to go Rakhmonov by 3rd round submission. Neil does tend to get submitted more than he gets knocked out. I could see a situation where he does get knocked down and then Rakhmonov goes for the submission as opposed to trying to overexert himself for the knockout. But I think it'll be in the 3rd round. I think it'll be later. I think Neil, he does have some first round stoppage losses, but I think in general, here's a guy that typically does survive the first round. And I don't know if Rakhmonov's going to be able to do that. And we'll see if he can get on the inside. It might take him a round or 2 to get that timing and be able to get in on the inside, as Magny's going to be a little bit bigger in this fight. But I'm picking Rakhmonov. As far as a betting perspective, like if Magny's a crazy underdog, I think you would have to throw a little bit of money on him, just because you look at the experience gap here. You look at the fact that Magny's been in the UFC since 2013. He has fought better opposition than Rakhmonov has. But I mean, saying that, look at a guy like Chimaev. Look at a guy like, we've had plenty of guys that maybe haven't fought the opposition, but have risen to the occasion and beat those good opponents here. So I'm kind of taking a little bit of a guess here, but based off what I've seen, I think Rakhmonov takes this by 3rd round submission. That's what I'm going to go with in this fight. But could Neil Magny pull off an upset and win a decision here and make it maybe a boring fight? Possibly. So I'm not putting that past it as well. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know who you're picking in this fight. How do you think it gets done? Also got to quickly mention, it was actually a viewer who wanted me to break down this fight. I'm really leaving it up to you guys. If there's certain fights you want me to break down, this isn't a main event or a headliner. It's not even a fight between 2 guys in the top 5, but I'm willing to listen to you guys if there's certain fights you want broken down. And I thought, hey, you know what? This is a little bit different. Let's go with this matchup and break it down. So if you guys have any other suggestions for fights you want me to break down, let me know in the comments. More than happy to hear what you guys have to say. And if there's any fights you're interested in me breaking down, I'll certainly do that in the near future. And just know as well, because I know people ask me, I will be previewing, some of these title fights that are coming up, some of these main events. I'll get to all of those. I'm trying to do a video or 2 a week on this channel for this show. So again, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you won't miss anything on this channel. I'm posting content on here every single day. And let's talk about this fight. Let's be respectful though. There's possibility I made some mistakes here. Maybe I got something wrong here. Let's discuss this. No need to be a hater. I'm more than happy to discuss fights, but let's just keep this civil and have a good discussion about this matchup. Again, it's right around the corner here, June 25th, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be Neil Magny and Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.